When I rushed back from out of state, my boyfriend was playing games with his friends. His ex-girlfriend lost, and the penalty was to kiss him. I stood there, watching her lunge forward, watching her kiss him, and then watching David say flatly, "Don't do that again next time." The old me would have rushed forward without hesitation, questioning him hysterically. But suddenly, I felt utterly fed up. I booked the soonest flight, wanting to rush back to celebrate my boyfriend's birthday. I stayed up several nights to finish my work on time, but I was still happy. David's phone was unreachable, so I took the cake I had made myself to the private booth he often hung out in. The loud music drowned out the sound of me opening the door. "I don't care about any of you. If anyone's getting a kiss, it should be David." Sarah's voice held a hint of playful shyness, her gaze fixed intently on David. David's bangs hung over his forehead, shadowing his eyes, making him appear somewhat indifferent, as if Sarah's words meant nothing to him. I froze slightly, my hands trembling in a corner where no one could see. Sarah slowly got up, approached David, and tentatively put her arms around his neck. Seeing he didn't resist, the joy in her eyes became more evident. The next second, her red lips pressed against his. The scene seemed to slow down before my eyes. I wanted to step forward and stop her, but my legs felt completely powerless. I stared intently at David, hoping for a reaction from him. He didn't push her away. In that instant, I felt as if I had been drenched in ice water from head to toe. Only after she finished kissing him did David say flatly, "Don't do that again next time. I have a girlfriend. Show some respect." Sarah pulled away from him irritably, muttering under her breath, "Your girlfriend is so high maintenance, always unhappy. When we were together, I never put you through this." David looked up, his eyes giving her a warning glance. "Sarah." All right, I won't say any more, don't want to spoil the mood again," Sarah conceded. Suddenly, I felt utterly pointless. Turning around, I threw the cake in my hand into the trash can with force. David called, but I didn't answer. By the time he found me, I was almost asleep. The rustle of him taking off his watch sounded. David, uncharacteristically, explained to me, "When did you get back? Why didn't you tell me beforehand?" Some friends I hadn't seen in a while, so we played for a bit longer. "You didn't have to wait for me next time, you could have gone to sleep." Seeing that I wasn't asking a barrage of questions as usual, David looked over at me. "I bought you your favorite blueberry muffins. You can go eat them." I rolled over, saying flatly, "No thanks, I'm not hungry." After a long while, David seemed about to say something else. I cut him off, speaking suddenly, "She kissed you, and you didn't push her away." No names, no preamble, but in the sudden silence, I knew he understood. After a moment, David looked at me, his tone somewhat helpless. Sarah and I are long over. As friends, I couldn't just stand there and let her feel awkward. You know how she is, completely spoiled. If I don't humor her a little, I'm afraid she might." By the end, I couldn't hear what he was saying anymore, but his tone of impatience, just like every other time, made it sound like I was being unreasonable. In the past, I would have definitely questioned him hysterically, needing to confirm again and again who the person truly in his heart was. But this time, I let out a light laugh. "David, you and Sarah should just get back together. I'm out. It's exhausting, everyone feels like they're putting on an act." A vein pulsed on David's forehead, and his face immediately darkened. "What are you talking about?" Perhaps my gaze was too serious. He slowly approached, opening his arms to pull me into a hug. "Still jealous of her? Haven't you had enough of being jealous of her? Can we not talk about unhappy things? I didn't even get to eat the cake you made today. I always did every year." His tone was gentle, trying to smooth over the ripples between us, as if the recent unpleasantness was just a misunderstanding. I pulled away from his embrace, saying expressionlessly, "I forgot it was your birthday today. If you want cake now, I can order takeout for you." David was getting annoyed by my coldness tonight. His patience for coaxing was running out, his thin lips tightly pressed together. After a while, he pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed softly. "All right, my bad. Can I donate a few machines to your lab as compensation?" Or, what do you want me to buy you? I covered my ears. You're too loud. I want to sleep. Ignoring my resistance, David pulled me into his arms again, gently patting my back. Sleep, sleep. A sudden phone ringing sliced through the brief quiet like a sharp blade. Sarah's name flashed brightly on the screen, looking particularly glaring. David's body stiffened for a moment, but after only a slight hesitation, he slowly released me and answered the call. My pipe burst at home, David. I drank a bit too much tonight, and it feels unsafe to call a repairman alone. Could you come over and help me with it? Please, David. Sarah's voice on the other end held a mix of pleading and helplessness. David didn't reply to her, quickly hanging up the phone. I could feel his gaze fixed on me, as if he was expecting me to say understandingly, "Go ahead." Or perhaps he was trying to prove his concern for me with this moment of silence. The air was filled with a silent standoff, every second feeling incredibly heavy. A complex expression flickered across David's face, as if he was struggling to suppress some unspeakable emotion. He raised his hand as if to touch my face, then hesitated and drew it back in midair. I have to go check on her. As if afraid I'd be angry, he added. I'll be back soon. I replied softly, my tone slightly dismissive, whatever. If it's too late, you don't have to come back. I've been a light sleeper lately, easily woken up. David paused, then frowned slightly, clearly deciding I was throwing a tantrum. He quickly grabbed his jacket. At the door, he suddenly stopped and turned back. She's easily scared, and she might have another heart attack if she gets frightened. Please be understanding. There's really nothing else going on between her and me. Trust me. The sound of the door closing made my heart contract sharply. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. Everything from the past surged through my mind. I didn't understand why, if he couldn't let go of Sarah, he was with me. Sarah and David dated for 2 years. Later, David felt it was too early for marriage, and since Sarah was 6 years older than him, he didn't want to hold back her youth, so they broke up. David told me that chapter was over for them, and if they still had feelings for each other, they wouldn't have reached this point. But every time my eyes met Sarah's, that complex, subtle challenge in her gaze seemed to tell a different story. His friends also often mentioned that Sarah was older than them, more like an older sister who had watched them grow up, and even if they weren't lovers, that familial bond was real, so I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. Everyone kept telling me to be more understanding. I tried to explain that Sarah had never truly let go of him, but David always thought it was just my possessive imagination. Even the birthday gift David gave me, Sarah would first unwrap and examine carefully, then say casually, this color might not suit you. How about you give it to me, and let David pick something else for you? When she said that, my head buzzed. I instinctively reached out to snatch the gift back. David stopped me, saying, since Sarah likes it, just give it to her. It's just a gift. I clenched my hand tightly, refusing to let go, my lower lip bitten almost through, filling my mouth with the taste of blood. David's face turned cold. Be reasonable. Every time something like this happened, I was told to be reasonable. But why? I was his girlfriend, yet I felt like the outsider. I glared at David, my emotions on the verge of exploding. Sarah acted as if she was startled, quickly shoving the gift back into my hand, saying with a hint of apology, I was wrong. I didn't realize liked it so much. Please don't argue because of me, or I'll feel terrible. She then added, don't be mad. I'll have a couple of drinks to make up. With that, she raised her glass and downed it. But as she was about to pour another drink, David snatched the glass from her hand, his tone slightly reproving. Enough. Your heart isn't well, don't overdo it. Sarah grabbed David's wrist, smiling. It's M's birthday today, don't make her mad, or you might lose your girlfriend. David rubbed his temples in frustration. Does this little thing really have to go on and on? Sarah leaned in and whispered a few words in his ear. At that moment, her neckline gaped open with the movement, almost exposed to my view. I couldn't stand it anymore. I angrily slammed the glass on the table onto the floor, my voice trembling as I yelled, David, do you want me to get you to a bed? Sarah looked innocent, as if she had been greatly wronged. You misunderstood. I was just telling him how to coax you. I really didn't want to see her hypocritical face anymore and turned to leave. But David held me back tightly. Calm down. What's with this scene? My eyes red-rimmed, I stared stubbornly at David. The words on David's lips were swallowed back. He kicked the table leg hard and stood up. He pressed his lips together, pulled me into a hug, and said to the people behind him, "We'll head back now. I'll pay the check. You guys have fun." Sarah called out his name from behind, unwilling to give up. David walked away with me without looking back. That time, I thought I had won with David's love, and I was overjoyed. But it didn't last. The sweet times were like a fleeting bloom. Sarah, like a lingering shadow, quietly infiltrated our lives again, so frequently it was suffocating. David didn't come back last night. I also tossed and turned all night, my heart pounding, unable to sleep at all. Just as I managed to make it to dawn, I woke up from a nightmare. In my ears, I faintly heard Gizmo's intermittent, weak cries for help, like a mosquito. I sprang out of bed and rushed to its little bed barefoot. Gizmo was gasping for air, its small mouth open, each breath a struggle against death. I quickly and gently opened its mouth, carefully lifted its head, and started performing CPR. Seeing its fragile state, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I rushed Gizmo to the nearest vet clinic. The vet's face was serious. Its condition is very bad, especially since it was a stray cat with a genetic disease before. I sat alone outside the surgery room, my mind a tangled mess. I picked up my phone and called David. The first time, no one answered. I called several more times before he finally picked up. I clutched the phone tightly, trying to keep my voice calm. "David, come to the clinic. Gizmo is sick." Sarah's voice on the other end was hoarse. David just fell asleep. Is it very urgent on your end? If it is, I can wake him up for you. She continued, he's really tired today. If it's nothing major, let him sleep in a bit longer. You'll see each other later anyway, right? I didn't say anything else and just hung up. Fortunately, Gizmo was strong and survived the first day in critical condition. I hadn't eaten all day, so I ordered some hot soup takeout, but the place must not have added any salt, it was completely bland. I mechanically swallowed it spoonful by spoonful, only the slight warmth in my throat offering a brief comfort, whi. The chill in my heart wouldn't dissipate. It wasn't until the afternoon of the next day that David appeared before me, his face full of exhaustion. He looked very tired and said immediately, "Sorry, I'm late." "How is Gizmo?" I looked up at him silently. After learning about Gizmo's condition, David told me in an almost indifferent tone, "There's no point in trying to save Gizmo anymore. Let it rest in peace. It's just a stray cat. I can buy you a better one." When I got your call, I rushed over. "Sarah didn't explain clearly. I thought you were the one in the hospital." Strangely, at that moment, I suddenly didn't feel so bad anymore. He seemed to no longer be important to me. I looked at the person in front of me, my voice firm. "I am going to save Gizmo. Its life isn't yours to decide. And, let's break up." David paused for a few seconds, raking a hand through his hair in frustration, his breathing heavy. "Are you angry because I didn't come home? I can explain. I haven't had a good night's sleep in 2 nights. Don't make a scene, okay?" I shook my head. "David, the cracks between us are much more than just one night you didn't come home. I'm tired of always being forgotten, and I'm tired of you always abandoning me without hesitation for someone else. You can't be without her, so I'll decide for you. I'll make it easy for you both." Before, no matter how much he hurt me, I could close my eyes and love him. But now, I was no longer willing to compromise myself. David's eyes blazed with anger, staring fixedly at me. "How many times do I have to tell you? There's really nothing going on between her and me. Even if we broke up, I can't treat her like an enemy, can I? We were together for so long. If she's in trouble, how can I not help? Can you stop making a scene?" She wasn't feeling well that day with her heart condition. I stayed because I was afraid she was in danger. The air grew heavy. David seemed to realize he had lost control and Dee quickly softened his tone. Let's talk this through properly. Don't just bring up breaking up all the time. He seemed convinced that as long as he lowered his head and showed some remorse, I would continue to love him without a second thought. I lowered my gaze, my voice surprisingly calm. David, you say it's fine to treat her like family, like a friend, and accept gifts from her. But what kind of gift did she give you? Underwear. Then you'll say I'm being dirty and thinking the wrong way about your relationship. Fine, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about other things. On holidays, you two play games day and night. She plays a support character / healer in games and just focuses on you, fine. Every time you gather with friends, she drinks even though she shouldn't because of her heart, and after she drinks, you have to take her home, leaving me to take a cab / Uber home alone. Am I just a shield for you too? David, you disgust me. David flinched, a trace of panic instantly appearing on his face. He instinctively tried to grab my hand. I turned away, avoiding his touch. He looked at his empty hand, his eyes filled with disbelieving apprehension, his whole body trembling slightly. David's chest was filled with an unspeakable bitterness. He spoke haltingly, I told you. Sarah's heart condition worsened because one time I fell into the water, and she saved me. She was lying in the hospital bed then, so fragile it seemed she might break if you touched her. I really couldn't just ignore her. He had a lot more he wanted to say, but at that moment, he could only explain helplessly, you have to believe me. I slept in the guest bedroom the whole time. There was nothing inappropriate between us, and I never thought about giving up on our relationship because of her. David looked tense, as if he was terrified of me leaving him. But his appearance didn't move me. I couldn't help but let out a hollow laugh and asked him, David, are you a doctor? CA. Can your presence heal people, be more effective than medicine? I didn't miss the flicker of bewilderment in his eyes. Before he could speak, I continued, you owe Sarah a debt of gratitude, but why do you have to drag me into repaying it? Why do you make me suffer the pain of this ambiguous, boundaryless closeness? Why should I put up with this kind of unfair treatment? My parents raised me with care too. I'm not some parasitic plant depending on you. David's face changed. The man who was always in control seemed to lose it slightly. Calm down. Can't you feel who I love? Why do you always have to focus on Sarah and argue about her? Can't you try to understand my difficulties? His expression was pained and guilty. I took a deep breath, looked at David, and said, one person cannot truly love two people at the same time. A world of three is too crowded. I'm willing to withdraw and let you two be together. David suddenly grabbed my hand, his grip so strong I could barely pull away. He didn't want to let go, feeling as if he might lose the person in front of him forever if he didn't do something. Just then, the vet spoke up. Gizmo's owner, Gizmo's condition is very bad. Please take some time to say goodbye to it. My heart sank sharply. I leaned against the wall to keep from collapsing. Seeing Gizmo with tubes inserted, its small chest still rising slightly, tears instantly blurred my vision. Gizmo! I called out softly, reaching out to hold its tiny paw tightly. It looked at me with lingering affection, a tear sliding from its eye, and then, it quietly stopped breathing. It had just turned 3. It was still so young. I held it, crying heartbrokenly. It was just a little cat. It didn't understand why its dad didn't like it, but it knew to love its mom. David covered me with his jacket. Say a goodbye to it. Just let it go. I've contacted a pet funeral service. They'll be here soon. I watched as Gizmo was cleaned up little by little. The moment it was carried towards the cremation chamber, I couldn't control myself anymore and burst into tears. David lowered his gaze, gently patting my back. A sudden phone ringing interrupted him. David frowned, hanging up the call, but the other person seemed persistent, calling back repeatedly. He said, I'm not leaving today. I'll stay with you. He kept not answering, and the phone started ringing on my phone. My voice was hoarse. I was too weary to argue and didn't want to disturb Gizmo's peace. David, if you don't answer, and something happens to her, you'll blame it on me again. I can't handle that responsibility. Besides, Gizmo is probably watching us from nearby. I don't want to argue with you. It was already a little scared of you. If we argue, I'm afraid it won't rest peacefully. David didn't like this. In his eyes, a cat seemed more important than him to me. He stared at me, silent for a long time. David suddenly grabbed my wrist, his fingertips white from gripping tightly. Emily Peterson, I don't understand. You can save a dying stray cat and love it so much, why can't you be a little more understanding towards her? Now you make me feel like you're breaking up with me just because of a cat. His tone held confusion. Is our relationship not even worth as much as a cat? I turned away angrily and slapped him hard with my other hand. David, Gizmo was with me through all the nights you made me sad. It was a stray cat, yes, but it's my baby. It's no different from my child. I was so upset I could barely breathe. My baby, raised by my own hands, why does it become a nobody stray cat in your mouth? The color drained from David's face. When he met my gaze, he seemed scalded, his voice slightly trembling. I didn't mean it like that. David's eyes held a touch of pained pleading. Forget it. You're not in a good mood today. I'll wait for you to calm down. I'll give you time to think about it properly. With that, he left in a hurry. I didn't know if he was rushing to his appointment or running away from something. But all of it, to me, no longer mattered. I had part of Gizmo's ashes made into a bracelet so it could stay with me. I will never have another cat in my life. I found a hotel to stay in. That house no longer had Gizmo's company, there was no point in going back. Throughout the night, David kept texting me updates on his whereabouts, almost to the point of live streaming his every move. I also saw Sarah's social media post. In the photo, she was smiling broadly. Behind her, a figure was busy in the kitchen. She was making a peace sign, looking happy. The caption read, "So good having you here." The scene was warm and lovely, but it stung my eyes. So, that was why he rushed over so quickly to cook a meal for Sarah. This relationship was truly rotten. Even Gizmo, who had always been with me, was gone. I clutched the bracelet tightly, curling up into a ball, as if that was the only way to find a trace of warmth. When I opened my eyes again, I found David sitting by my bed. Are you awake? He turned his head, his eyes full of worry. I couldn't reach you by phone, so I was worried and came to find you. He reached out and checked my temperature on my forehead again. You have a high fever and were talking in your sleep. I couldn't wake you up no matter what, and you wouldn't take the medicine. If you hadn't woken up soon, I would have taken you to the hospital. For a moment, I felt a sense of daze, almost thinking we were back to how we used to be. I looked at him, my head slightly sluggish from the fever, and said softly, "Go on and do what you need to do. I don't need you here." David's fingers clenched and then relaxed. He carefully covered me with the blanket, his voice actually sounding choked up. Where else would I go? His lonely appearance even made him look a little pitiful. I pulled away from him, looking at him seriously and said, "I'm not making a scene. I'm really breaking up with you." David seemed not to hear me and continued explaining, "I know you're unhappy because of her. I went to see her because I wanted to make things clear. I don't want to break up with you." His fingers trembled, his expression tense. "If there's anything else you're unhappy about, I can change. Will you forgive me? I'll try to see Sarah less often, and I'll contact those friends less, okay?" I found it ridiculous. So he wasn't clueless, he had just been letting it happen all along. His eyes were red-rimmed, as if tears were about to fall any second. I had never seen him so vulnerable. My voice was very quiet. "David, love has become meaningless at this point. Before, I was the one desperately asking for explanations. Now you're the one constantly explaining, but I don't want to hear it anymore. Why should I stay with you? What reason do you have to keep me? Is it your lack of boundaries, or your complicated relationships? You've pretty much worn away all the good things we had." As I spoke, my nose felt a little sore, feeling wrong that the feelings I had invested didn't receive the same in return. David, you always look at it from your perspective and say I'm not being reasonable or considerate. If I had a friend who was that close to me, how would you feel? You can't empathize unless it happens to you, can you? You just want to comfortably enjoy the thrill of ambiguity, is that it? Beneath the usual calmness in my gaze, my words seemed to bleed, making him feel flustered and helpless, his steps unsteady, unable even to meet my eyes. David shook his head helplessly, the guilt in his eyes unconcealable. It's not like that. I never thought about betraying you. I hurt you, hit me, okay? He grabbed my hand and brought it to his face, saying stubbornly, hit me to vent your anger. I'll change. He probably didn't realize how pathetic he looked at that moment. I could feel his regret. I just felt incredibly tired. In this relationship, my conscience was clear. I pulled my hand away. I don't believe you anymore. David, I have a terrible headache, and I don't want to see you. Please leave. I'll give you my address later, and you can mail my things. David stood frozen, saying weakly, get some rest. He fled in a hurry. David drove home like a madman, almost causing an accident on the way. Emily Peterson's words kept echoing in his mind, what reason do you have to keep me? If before he might have thought Emily Peterson was just throwing a tantrum, now he felt he might truly lose her. His heart was pounding rapidly and aching slightly, affecting his every nerve. He had to get home quickly. Maybe he could still salvage something. But Sarah got there first. David was frantically searching the house, and he didn't even have time to talk to Sarah. When she pressed him, he admitted he wanted to win Emily Peterson back. Sarah was stunned. She didn't understand why David wouldn't let go when they had reached this point. She stared at David in disbelief, her emotions growing more agitated. David, you've changed. You used to be so rational in relationships. What are you doing now? It's just a woman. If she's gone, she's gone. Is it really worth this? David was momentarily lost in thought, then buried his face in his hands in pain, saying in a low voice, no, I can't be without her. Sarah's eyes gradually welled up. She stared intently at David, as if trying to drill a hole through him. David, I won't allow it. Her voice was tinged with resentment. Why could you easily give up on my 2 years, but you can't forget hers? David met Sarah's gaze, pleading, Sarah, stop it. I'm really not in the mood to argue with you right now. Anger had made Sarah lose control. She violently pushed David away, grabbed the handmade doll from the nightstand, and mercilessly cut it to pieces with scissors. Sarah! What are you doing? David! Seeing this, felt an indescribable pain surge through him and rushed forward to stop her. Sarah sneered. There were plenty of things you wouldn't let me do before, and didn't you eventually allow them? A heavy atmosphere spread through the room. David looked at her in disappointment and said, Sarah, leave. Get out of here. Looking at the scattered pieces of fabric on the floor, David's heart twitched. He reached out with trembling hands to pick something up, not even noticing the sound of the door closing. While searching, he accidentally found a note. David, I love you so much. Now that you've found this secret, I wanted to ask, did we get married? David's mind exploded. He remembered. When he made this handmade doll, Emily Peterson had sent him away for a while. Was this what she was doing? David lowered his head, his lips trembling. Wanting to temporarily escape the unpleasant memories, I threw myself into my lab work during this time, burying myself in hard labor. It wasn't until my advisor gently reminded me to look in the mirror that I was startled to realize my face had gone completely pale. My advisor gave me some time off to rest properly. Just as I planned to spend the afternoon immersed in the library, a figure entered my line of sight. He stood in the middle of the road, his gaze slowly turning towards me. The usually calm and composed man's eyes were now filled with red veins, stubble grew around his lips, and he looked utterly haggard and sad. As he walked towards me step by step, I instinctively turned to leave. David quickly stepped forward and blocked me, his voice filled with a hint of tension and urgency. Do you really not want to see me? Why are you leaving? I frowned. Why would I see you? We've broken up. Don't you understand? But David wouldn't let go of me. I pulled my hand away and looked at him calmly. David, what are you doing? When I loved you, you hurt me. Now that I don't love you anymore, you're chasing AF. Term me. You're not the only man in the world. I've suffered enough heartache. Life is long. I'll meet someone whose eyes are full of only me. David clutched my sleeve tightly, his tone as humble as dust. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. His eyes were red-rimmed. He chose his words carefully. I truly love you. Will you give me another chance? He was like a child who had made a mistake, begging me to forgive him again and again. Looking at the tears glistening in his eyes, I suppressed my emotions and said softly, David, I don't want to get involved in your complicated relationships anymore. What's the point of regretting it now? Let's end things amicably. Thinking of Sarah's photos showing off their relationship online made me feel sick. The light in David's eyes instantly dimmed. It's my fault. I was wrong. You can punish me however you want. I miss you so much. Let's get back together, okay? After you started grad school, you were always busy with your lab data. Every time I called you, you'd talk for maybe 10 minutes before hanging up. I didn't know who was more important in your heart. He never told me about these hesitations and sadness he felt. If he had clarified things and understood his own feelings earlier, maybe we wouldn't have ended up here. I was silent for a long time. David pressed his lips together, his throat dry. Emily Peterson, at first, I really just wanted to provoke you, to make you care about me more. But even when I didn't say good night or good morning, you didn't notice. When I called less often, you didn't try to comfort me. I get tired too. But I know I was wrong. I was really wrong. Seeing that I was still unmoved, he took a card from his pocket. It was a forgiveness voucher I had given him once. His voice grew quieter and quieter. See? I didn't throw away the things we had. Can you forgive me, for its sake? A crumpled card, held tightly, with writing on it, reason-free forgiveness vo. Chair. Given that David bravely suffered injury while protecting Emily Peterson, his deep affection is undeniable. Emily Peterson hereby issues this voucher. With this voucher, David may request Emily Peterson to forgive any single transgression, and Emily Peterson shall grant it. Date XX year July 17th, my eyelids trembled. I deliberately straightened my back, trying to appear calm, my fingertips digging deep into my palms, desperately holding back the tears that were about to fall. David's expression was almost pleading. He said with difficulty, Please, Emily Peterson. I ran a red light driving home to find it. Did you know that? When I found it, the fear that had been consuming me finally faded. I know I'm despicable, I'm shameless, but we clearly can't live without each other. I took a deep breath and took the voucher. Looking up at the scar near David's eye, my heart ached. At that time, I had just graduated college, and we were traveling out of state. In the evening, after watching a light show, we were going back to the hotel. Because I wanted to look good, I insisted on wearing high heels, and accidentally twisted my ankle at an intersection. David helped me sit on the steps and went to buy medicine. As soon as he left, a group of drunk men walked towards me. They spoke very casually, and even started touching me inappropriately. I screamed in terror, but they only got worse. David heard my cries for help and immediately ran back. Ignoring everything else, he picked up rocks from the roadside and started fighting them. With sheer brute force, he fought with several men, but was quickly overpowered. They surrounded him, punching and kicking. Two of them even held him up while another humiliated him by hitting his face. Blow after blow, it made me cry out in despair. I wanted to call for help from people nearby, but there was no one around. Watching him being attacked, I wanted to rush over and save him, but they waved me aside and threw me to the ground. I heard a cracking sound from my ankle and felt such pain that I blacked out for a moment. When David saw I was hurt, he stared fixedly at the bald man who had hit me, lunged forward, and punched him right in the temple. Two men next to him tried to stop him. He endured the attacks from both sides but kept his eyes on the bald man. His eyes were filled with ferocity. His reckless fighting style scared off the drunk men. I desperately tried to stand up, looking at the man lying on the ground barely conscious, my head buzzing. David, stop fighting, stop fighting. Listen to me, please stop fighting, okay? David's face was covered in blood. Hearing my words, he stopped fighting, but before he could say anything, he fainted. On the way to the hospital, I thought, this person, he's probably the one for me, for life. During the days David was recovering, his parents found out about what happened between us. They didn't explicitly state their feelings but used their influence to ensure those thugs were punished. Looking at him lying in the hospital bed, I felt incredibly guilty. Every time I secretly wiped away tears, David would notice. Later, he came up with an idea to have me give him a forgiveness voucher as a reward for his heroic act of saving me. I agreed, crying at the time, thinking that since he loved me so much, risking his life, how could I not forgive him for minor mistakes? He was the man who was beaten almost to death yet still protected me. He was the man who, with blood on his head, didn't forget to comfort me so I wouldn't worry. I didn't understand why two people who were supposedly so good together would end up like this. I gazed at him, my consciousness gradually returning from its haze, then slowly lowered my eyelids as tears fell without warning. I wanted to say cruel things to him, to tell him to leave immediately. David choked back tears and said softly, "Emily Peterson, please don't leave me." Luke. Utterly pathetic, as if a single word from me could be the hammer that shattered him. I was silent for a moment, then finally spoke slowly. "David, I need time to sort out my thoughts. Those hurts can't be easily erased by a simple apology from you. Before you made those decisions, you never truly considered how I felt. David, stop pushing me. Give me space to breathe, to think." David didn't say anything else, just watched me leave in silence, standing there for a long time, unmoving. I buried my head in the pillow, seeking a trace of comfort and security. He was my first love. All the beautiful memories of my youth were connected to him. Denying him felt like denying a part of myself. I also didn't know if forgiving him would be a betrayal of the person I was during those days, quietly enduring the pain. But no matter how rationally I analyzed it, the scales of emotion still tilted involuntarily towards David. Despite my repeated avoidance, David would still come to my school every week, like clockwork, bringing my favorite blueberry muffins each time. Even if I made excuses about needing to do lab work and not having time, he would quietly wait downstairs by the dorm building all day. Grandma Carol's Memorial Day arrived, and I took the road back home. Pushing open the familiar front door/gate, I saw David standing in the courtyard. He quietly helped me tidy the house that hadn't been lived in for a long time, without saying a word. Although the old family house had been cleaned, it couldn't hide the marks of time and a sense of indescribable heaviness. Before Grandma Carol's memorial setup/shrine, I devoutly lit a candle, at memorial. The little old lady had worked hard all her life, and even in her old age, she didn't want to burden her children, passing away alone in the old family house. She was gone before I could properly show my filial piety to her. Perhaps because of the vulnerability and sadness of the day, when David put his arm around my shoulder, I didn't refuse. The front door/gate was suddenly kicked open with brute force. Along with a rush of wind, Sarah came in, smiling. Her gaze was like a sharp sword, sweeping back and forth between the two of us. David shielded me behind him, saying tensely, "Sarah, what exactly do you want? If you feel I owe you something, whether it's money or shares, I'm willing to give it to you. Just please stop intruding on my life, stop disrupting everything." Sarah looked into his eyes, a bitter smile playing on her lips, as if recalling moments from the past. "David, do you remember? When you were 6, you said you'd bring me home as your bride. When you were 10, you vowed before your parents that you'd marry me. That year you were 17, you asked me with red-rimmed eyes to wait for you. When you were 20, you held my hand tightly and promised me a lifetime of happiness. But your lifetime only lasted a short 2 years, yet it trapped me." At this point, Sarah's emotions finally broke. Tears streamed down her face like a broken string of pearls, her smile turning desolate. "David, I can't leave you at all, and you can't easily get rid of me either. Suddenly, her expression became fiercely determined. If you're not willing, then don't save me later. Before her words even finished, Sarah had pulled a bottle of pills and a bottle of water from her handbag and swallowed them without hesitation. David's face instantly turned pale. He cried out, "Sarah, are you crazy?" Sarah's body began to slide down powerlessly, finally collapsing to the ground. David instinctively wanted to rush forward, but his steps froze for a moment. He looked at me helplessly, his eyes full of panic and pleading. Looking at him, I said, "It's a matter of life and death. Go quickly." David's eyes were already red-rimmed. He walked past me dejectedly, each step seeming incredibly heavy. His mind was numb, but his heart ached as if it would burst. The choking in his throat, like a desperate wail, made him feel as though his entire body was being torn apart. At that moment, we both knew instinctively that from now on, there was no longer any possibility for us. The kite strings that had once held me captive were finally completely broken. Perhaps, love really wasn't worth it. He looked back at me one last time, his eyes empty and vacant, like a body without a soul. A single tear quietly slid from his eye. David didn't bother me again after that. Later, I heard bits and pieces about him from friends. I heard that the pills Sarah swallowed had caused significant damage to her already sensitive and fragile heart. Now, she had to be extremely careful to keep her emotions stable to stay alive. This change, like a chain of fate, bound David and Sarah tightly together, making it difficult for him to break free. His parents had appointed a successor from the family/business circle to be trained as the new heir. And at this moment, I was in far-off Europe. Here, I devoted myself entirely to research projects in quantum computing, continuing to pursue my passion. Every day, I was dealing with various data and algorithms. Although busy, my heart felt incredibly fulfilled and peaceful. Now, I only hope that I can continue to move forward on the path of scientific research.